Happy Saturday, everyone. We are back to do pendulum checking, finally, after quite some time. And before we get to it, a couple of announcements. Coming into this, Spirit Team wanted me to be very clear with you about a message that they're sending through. And even though we're doing the D to the T, about the M to the L, like I had promised, our focus is actually elsewhere. Our focus is actually on the collective. And here is the message that they wanted me to give to you. Upper corner here. They wanted us to know that we are the architects of our freedom, and it all tips at our collective consciousness. And we're going to get to that in the pendulum check. So we need to keep our focus on that. And yeah, we're going to start with the D to the T, and we're going to go through that, but then there's going to be this whole other thing that we do. So I want to just prime you for that before we actually get into this. Second announcement. The second announcement is that my next live is going to be next Friday, April the 18th at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Now, we're going to change this venue up, and we're going to change it kind of dramatically, and I want you to hear me fully on this before you make your opinion about it. The deal is that after doing multiple lives on public channels and kind of like sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, it really is kind of a crapshoot at this point, especially the last one where I got bumped off and I couldn't get back on, and that was really disappointing. And then afterwards, I had some people come after me really negatively through text, through my private text, and say some really nasty things to me. So the whole event was really upsetting for me. And after that, Spirit Team was like, we got to get you to a stable place. And I'm going through a lot of changes with my business anyway. Shopify was the first change. You're going to see other changes. So this next change that we're going to do is part of a larger picture. And that is that my lives are now going to be on my private Zoom channel for a fee. And there's a couple reasons behind that. Number one, when I do a live event, it is really high quality. It is a really high offer. And Spirit Team actually has been after me for a while. They're like, you really need to charge for these. These are actually like classes and workshops and really high level events. So that's number one. Number two, we need a stable platform. On Zoom, if you get bumped off, you can get back on. If I get bumped off, I can get back on. That's Zoom's professional platform that they provide for us. That's their promise to us. So we're going to do private platform, turn it into fee events with really high offers, really high quality. And if you are sitting there going, I don't know if I want to do that, Dana, I don't know if I want to pay to be there, that's fine. I will still always provide the recording for that $8.95 afterwards for you to have access to it. Now, I know some of you are listening to this and going, but Dana, I don't know that I'm going to even have the money for that. And one of the things that happened recently during some of this in my last live event and some people talking about the money issue, I had a woman step forward and do some angel investing. She stepped forward and paid for 3 recordings, and then I matched those. So we did some angel investing. So what I want you to know is that as we begin to roll out these new lives, and they're going to be for a fee, I'm going to leave openings for people who do not have a budget for this stuff. I'm going to leave openings for people to either angel invest, and or I'm also going to be providing scholarships for people to be able to come in and be a part of it as well. So this is the shift that's going to happen. And I'm sure you've seen the banner going across. The focus of this next event is what happened to Kamala. And I'm going to be going through the soup to the nuts from the very moment she got tapped to run for president all the way up to current. This is something that I wanted to do on the last YouTube live, and there wasn't enough time, and then because of the situation that happened, it just wasn't able to happen at all. So I am coming full circle back to talk about that from the front end to the back end, the politics, the psychic readings, the pendulum checks. I'm going to spend a good at least hour to an hour and a half on this, so you will have a full picture. And I'm going to share things that I never shared before, that I've kind of held close to the chest because I didn't feel comfortable coming out and saying what I saw. Seeing the banner pop up here, you can go to my link tree, click through, take a look at it, sign up, and also you can go through to my website, www.somaticmoney.com, go all the way over to the group tab, and it is one of the group tabs that you can click through there. We're going to go ahead and try this and see how it works. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to provide a much better quality experience for everyone, and the recording is going to be that much better. And if you're still sitting on the fence going, well, Dana, why don't you just provide it for free? I want you to know, look at the videos that I provide through the week that are already free. You get a full free forecast on Sunday. You get at least 1 to 2 psychic notes of me energetically reading what's going on in the week with the energies and the emotions and the politics. You get that. And then you also get stories and custom coaching about intuitive practices. And I'm also going to be bringing in somatic money on that. You are already getting a menu of really high quality free information from me through the week. So just remember, that's the platform. You get that for free. Then these live events are primarily going to be for a fee, and that's either going to be workshop, class, or these really high quality psychic channel events that then you can pick up for $8.95 after. That's going to be the new structure headed forward. That said, let's get to some pendulum checking. Since I have been off of pendulum checking, during that time, I have been trying to figure out my setup so that you guys can actually see me do my work. I did get a light with an arm, and I've been playing with that, and I've had some success with it, and I might try that. But more recently, I realized, oh my God, sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. And when I realized I've elevated my computer, I'm going to push it back here a little bit and look at this. Elevate the computer, just swing it down, and you guys are going to be able to see me do pendulum checking here and write it, and I'll be able to swing it around and show it to you. And so that's what we're going to do, and I will see you after. So here we go. So today is Friday, April the 11th, 2025. And this is going to be, we're just going to call this State of the Nation. So I will flip these around so you can kind of see as we're going along. Now, the first thing I want to show you is, of course, we want to start with what's my no. So my no is swinging at about right there. That's the no. And then what's my yes? And my yes is swinging like right about here. That's my yes. There's my yes, there's my no, all right? And then the other thing that I want to show you that I have been doing more and more, because I'm beginning to, like, this whole thing about the yes-no thing, this is great, but when you get the yes-no thing, we're dealing here in absolutes, all right? So the yes-no thing right here, these are like dualistic absolutes. And is this a good tool to have? Absolutely. It's a fantastic tool to have. But a lot of times our answers fall in between, like they fall like right here, they fall right there. And so you begin to go, well, what does that mean? Well, let me show you what that means as far as what I have been able to figure out. So I'm gonna do a gradient here like this, and we know that my no lands like right about there, and that my yes lands right about here. Well then, this is just basic geometry. So there's a whole range right there between my no signal and my yes signal, and I consider that anything happening here you can turn into a percentage. So, you get your no, you get your yes, and then this, what would we call this? The fulcrum. Then you have this whole percentage range that you can do. And this is also very helpful. So like when I am trying to find out an answer on something, the closer it leans towards less, like I won't do something unless it gives me a solid yes or a solid no. But then this percentage in between is so very helpful. So how do you figure that? How do you pendulum check for that? Well, let me just go down and show you another one of these. So let's just say, and let me make it bigger so you can see it on the screen. So let's just say my no is about there. My yes is there. So no, yes. And then we've got this range. Well then, if we're doing percentages, what's about the 50% mark on this would be like right about there. Okay, 50%. And 75% is going to be like right about there. And 25% is going to be right about there. Here's 100% on yes, and here's 100% on no, and there's the 50% mark, and either the 25 or 75% mark or 25 or 75% mark, depending on, whether you're looking at something to be a yes or a no. But look at that. 25%, 50%, 75%. This gives us so much more information. All right. So, and this moves us from a dualistic yes or no to a gray area, an integrated gray area of the percentages. How cool is that? When I figured this out, I was like my grandfather Judy would say, he's like, now we're cooking with gas. right there. All right. So how are we going to apply that into a pendulum check reading? Now, what I promised you before, I promised you that I would pendulum check about the whole martial law thing right around April 20th, what's going on with that. So let's just start from the top and let's ask the question. Will DT install the M to the L on or after 4/2025? Here's my grid. So will DT install M to the L on or after 2025? And look at that. We're getting it's starting, like what I want to show you is it's starting at about a 50%. Okay, it's starting at about a 50%. And then I'm going to just let it swing. And then it swings to the back door of a no. So what you just saw is it started at a 50%. And then it went all the way around to here. I know, and for a lot of you newbies, you're like, what did she just do? So when I swung the pendulum, what I found is that it landed pretty solidly at a 50% mark, very much like this, a 50% mark. And then it went all the way around to the no. What does that mean? So what that says to me is there's a 50% chance he will, and then he will increase it, and then it will dissipate. So it landed on a 50%, but then it kept going to 100%. So like the heat got amped up on it, and then it bottomed out, and it went all the way back around to the no side. And to me, that's pretty indicative of DT. Like we just saw that happen with the tariffs. The heat got turned on, it got turned on, it got turned on, it got turned on, and then he's like, whoop, psych, no. And that is just like him to do something like that. So I'm thinking the pendulum check here is showing something very similar to what he would actually do with something like that. So let's ask this, because I've kind of got certain hunches with this. So if DT installs M to the L, will it be nationwide or inner city, downtowns?
And then we also want to ask, if he does, what types of cities? Sanctuary cities? Will he do this in sanctuary cities, or will he do this in MAGA cities? Or a mix? Okay, so let's do, if DT installs M to the L, first we're going to check, will it be nationwide? Will it be nationwide? That lands on a pretty solid no. It's shy of the 100% mark, but it lands on a pretty solid no. Then I move to, will he do this? If he does this, will it be in inner cities or downtowns? Look at that. So nationwide, pretty much we get a no. Downtowns, pretty much get a yes. And then we want to know, if he does this, what types of cities is he going to target? So we want to ask, if D to the T installs M to the L, what types of cities is he going to target? And we're going to ask first, is he going to target sanctuary cities? Well, it's not swinging that hard, and it's swinging like right at about what I would say. See, there's the yeses right there. It's swinging right there, which is right around 80%. So you can see what's going on here. And there's the no, and there's the yes. Okay. Then will he do this in MAGA cities? Nope, not going to do it in MAGA cities. And that is even more solid. So this one right here. This one is an emphatic no. Sanctuary cities is a somewhat yes, but it's not a very strong yes. My pendulum was not swinging that hard. And then if he does install M to the L, we did sanctuary MAGA cities, or in cities that are a mix. Is he going to do it in a mix, in mixed cities? That's an emphatic no right there. So I think what we can take from this, if he did this, he would not do it nationwide. And think about it. That would be feasibly impossible, okay? And then if he does do it, it's probably going to be inner city or downtowns. And there's a very strong likelihood it's going to be sanctuary cities, liberal cities. And it's going to leave MAGA cities or mixed cities alone. So look at what this is. So this is what I want to ask now is, if DT installs M to the L, is the wow. Yeah, and I had to stop the camera there just a bit, because as I was doing this, I got a lot of energy, and I didn't know if I was being told yes or no, and I got told yes, Spirit Team wants me to do this. So if D to the T installs M to the L, is this like a threat or a bully or a statement? If he does this, and that's coming back as a solid yes. And I just so you know, I could feel it in my swing. It went from 100% to about 80%. Here's the thing. Now I can hear really clearly somebody saying they won't let him do this. But I am remembering how he unleashed the last time he unleashed that security team in Portland. So just so you guys can kind of see what's going on with the checking here. And also, I've had some time to think about this. So I've kind of knew what direction that I was going, but I also wanted you guys to see how I naturally unfold my own organic pendulum checks. All right, let's ask this. I can hear this one coming through. We want to ask, is it feasible logistically for D to the T to install M to the L in the US? So we're going to ask, is it feasible logistically for D to the T to install M to the L in the United States? And it's solidly, like it swung solidly to the no. And right there, and I think that's our answer right there, is like, let's ask this. This is kind of what's coming through is the reason they, powers behind the scene, don't want D to the T to install M to the L is because it will show how, like, unlikely or unfeasible or disempowered this kind of move is. Let's ask this. The reason they don't want D to the T to install M to the L is because it will basically, show their holes or show their weakness or show that they actually maybe can't do it. Is that the reason they don't want D to the T to install M to the L? And that is coming in at about a 50%. So that's part of the answer. And I'm going to ask, like, it is also like they don't want D to the T playing with military. If the military would actually back it, which is the real question, they don't want D to the T playing with military in the US? Is that it? Let's ask this. No, that's not it. That's kind of like a straight up. Let's go to this. Let's go to another question. Is it because they don't want him doing this? Is it because the military won't back him? Question mark. So, is it because the military won't back him? And we're gradually getting a yes right there. We're gradually getting a yes. What about private security companies? Because that's what happened in Portland the last time. Would he use private security companies to do this? That's getting a solid yes. Would he use the military? No. Would the military back him? No. Okay. So if he did this, he'd use private security. There you go. Part of the reason I am doing this to show this to you is that whole question about, like, will D to the T install M to the L, question mark. And what I want to put down here, it's so much more complex than this. And that is getting a solid yes. The complexity of this is so much crazier than we can actually understand, I think. On to a next round of questions, or at least one question now. And this was something that came up on my last live. I basically said, how much longer is D to the T going to be in office or on the planet? And Spirit Team came back and said, wrong question. This is the question they wanted me to ask instead. They wanted me to ask, how much longer is D to the T required to be a placeholder to transform the collective consciousness? Isn't that a much better way to reframe this whole thing? Take a look at that. How much longer is D to the T required to be a placeholder here in the US as president to transform the collective consciousness? Interesting. So what this does here is it moves the attention from this bugger and it moves it to us. It gives us our power back. So we need to be paying attention to our collective consciousness, as a group of humans on the planet. And so I want to ask, at this point, I want to ask Spirit World, what percentage level, let's ask this, what percentage level are we at with coming together? Where are we at in on our percentage level? And if you remember, here's my graph. This would be 100% together, and this is 0% together. Where are we at? And it looks like we're right at about 50%. Spirit Team is saying we're right at about the 60% mark of collective global consciousness, especially as it pertains to the movement or the shift going on with the D to the T. So that's where, so here's right about, this would be 50%. So we're right about here. We're right at about the 60% mark. Okay. So this kind of gives you an idea of how much we're shifting, how much we're actually coming together. It moves our attention from this guy, from this bugger, to us. And I think that's pretty healthy. I think that's pretty important. So I wanted to ask Spirit Team, what percentage level of the collective conscience coming together, what do we need to get to bump him out or bump him off the planet? Where do we need to get to? So Pendulum, where do we need to get to in our collective consciousness to, push Donald D to the T out? They're saying right at about the 80% mark. We need to be together as a collective right at about the 80% mark for him to get pushed out of office, pushed off the planet, 80%. And we're right at about 60% right now. So then we want to ask, okay, we've got this movement, what is it going to take? So then, we want to know, how long do we need to be in this cauldron? And what I can hear is, it's going to take through the summer. And that's what a lot of my pendulum checks and talking with Spirit Team, that was on my live, the whole thing about, it's easily, the feeling I get is this thing breaks right around June, July. And it's August 2025 when it all begins to shift and move. So I just want to ask, then let's take a look at this. Is this going to happen in April? This is going to happen in April 2025, this collective. May 2025, June 2025, July 2025, August, and I can hear on August too late. So is this collective 80% mark, are we getting there? Are we hitting that in April? That's a no. That's a solid no. Are we getting there in May? Still not moving. We're still kind of, April's there. May is kind of there. June. Boom. July. It's July. So we're kind of like, the pendulum is saying we're kind of here in April and we're kind of here in May, but then June, it's moving. July. So, and then it's over. That, like, it's already happened. So if you are in a position of going like, I don't know how much longer I can hang on, and this is just really, really crazy. So our goal is to, so let me just recap here. Our goal is to come together as a collective. And in coming together as a collective, Spirit Team is saying it's probably, we're going to have to get to about the 80% mark. And I don't know, like, is that in the United States or is that globally? Like, I need to go back and ask that, but we need to get to about the 80% mark. Then, is that going to happen in April? Nope, we're just barely beginning to crack through. May, we're going to get a little bit of push. June, look at the push through. That's a break. That's like breakdown, breakthrough. July, we're there. So the feeling I have is like, that this happens somewhere between June and July. Frankly, I keep remembering George Floyd. Remember the George Floyd thing? That happened at the end of June, beginning of July. So, like, to me, it feels like, you know, like right about here is when this whole thing, like, that's the mark. To me, it's like right about there. So when I look at things energetically, the percentage, and then I go to the calendar, do the pendulum check, this is what I'm coming up with. And I have gone over this and over this and over this. And so I would encourage you, like, those of you who are pendulum checking, I would encourage you to do all this. And the last question we want to ask is this collective consciousness of 80%, is this global for this to happen, or is this the US? Or is it both? And so when I ask, is it global? That's a no. US, it's both it's both global with the US. It's both global with the US. So really, this is a global thing. This is totally this is a global unity. Global unity in this movement. It's going to take all of us. It's crazy to think it's going to take all of us to shift, just a handful of people. But these handful of people have been the ones that have been holding things in place forever. And that's what it's going to take, the globe to shift this entire thing.